and for a heartbeat, I thought we'd been hit. Then impact. A clang on the right side. No penetration. Sparks sprayed across the floor. Ernst laughed wildly. We're still here. I reversed toward cover, half blind through the cracked periscope. Another flash behind, a comrade's tank vanished in flame. Static replaced his voice on the radio. The world narrowed to noise and instinct. Shells, commands, screams. Minutes stretched like hours. Then silence. Just the hiss of cooling steel. Snow drifted through the open hatch. Soft flakes melting on hot armor. Otto sat slumped. Eyes closed. A thin line of soot across his cheek. The commander exhaled slowly. Hold position. I stared out at the white-covered field. The snow hid everything, wrecks, bodies. Truth, it almost looked peaceful. But beneath that thin blanket, the earth was still blighting. And tomorrow, we would wake the beast again. The night was endless. Wind howled through the cracks in the hull, carrying the distant thunder of guns. No one slept. We just waited, each of us pretending not to hear. The faint cries drifting from the field outside. At dawn, the sky turned a dull silver. The commander ordered me to start the engine. The noise shattered the silence, echoing like a beast waking from a nightmare. I'd begun to hate that sound. It meant we were still alive, but it also meant we'd soon wish we weren't. We rolled out through a frozen orchard. The trees were black bones in the snow. Crows circled above them, their calls sharp as knives. Ernst sat quiet, his eyes hollow, his hands never still. Otto stared through the gun sight, murmuring the same line again and again. Don't miss. Don't miss. The radio crackled. Retreating units ahead. Soviets advancing from the east. Retreat. A word no one said aloud before. It tasted bitter. But even the commander didn't argue this time. We joined a column of surviving tanks, their sides scarred, tracks caked in blood and mud. We passed the wreckage of a convoy, wagons overturned, horses frozen mid-step. One driver still sat upright, hands on the reins, eyes open to nothing. A kilometer later, the shelling began again. The first explosion tore open the ground beside us. Chunks of ice and dirt slammed against the hull. I jerked the controls, steering us into a shallow ditch. Otto fired back blindly. Each shot shook the tank. The smell of cordite filled the air. Smoke curled around my face, thick and sweet like poison. Then a sudden silence. No more shells, just the crackle of distant fire. We waited. 5 minutes. 10. The commander finally spoke. Keep moving. When I opened the hatch, snow drifted inside. The world was white again. Silent, deceptively clean. We rolled past a field of wrecks, German and Russian both. The snow didn't care who'd fallen. It covered everyone the same. At the far end of the road, we stopped beside an abandoned house. Inside, the air was warmer, thick with the smell of damp wood and rot. Ernst found a child's drawing on the wall. A tank, crude and smiling, colored in blue pencil. He stared at it for a long time, before tearing it down. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same woman with the white cloth. Her face stayed with me. When I reached for my canteen, my hands were shaking. Otto whispered from the turret. You ever think about home? I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't remember what home smelled like anymore. Outside, the snow fell heavier. The world seemed quieter now, as if it too was tired of listening to us. The commander wrote in his notebook, each stroke of the pen slow and deliberate. After a while he said, when this ends, I don't know what we'll have left to go back to. No one replied. The fire burned low. Somewhere beyond the hills, artillery rumbled again. We got the order to pull back for repairs. No one cheered. I eased the Panzer forward, turret locked, barrel lowered. The gearbox growled like a wounded animal. The road was a seam of ice and ruts. A truck burned slow on the verge. Diesel flames blew at the base, orange at the tips. The driver was still in the seat. Hands fused to the wheel. We did not stop. You don't stop for what you can't help. Bodies lay where the snow found them. German, Soviet, civilian. Boots missing. Dog tags tangled in ice. A horse stood frozen in its harness. Head bowed as if listening. The smell changed by distance. Smoke first, then hot metal. Then the sweet-sour note of rot where drifts were thin. Inside the tank, the air went gray and sleepy. I cracked the hatch. Winter slapped my face awake. We crawled past a village without doors. A pram on its side. A chalk cross on a cellar hatch. No voices below. Eyes forward, the commander said. The periscope gave me little pictures. My mind would stitch together later. When I wanted sleep most. At a crossroads, a feldgendarme waved us on. With a board ripped from a cupboard. Workstat 2 kilometers. Our right tracks thumped. Rubber peeling, road wheel scarred. Every turn said not far now. The repair park was trees blackened by soot. Turrets without tanks, tanks without turrets. Hull plates stacked like tombstones. Men moved in oil-stiff coveralls. No spare gestures, no spare words. We backed over a pit. Grease mapped old disasters along the edges. Chalk marks on our glacis. Idler misaligned, guide horns bent. Pins mushroomed, periscope cracked. A mechanic tapped the vision block. Lucky, he said, not meeting my eyes. Another slid under the hull, spanner and cigarette. Sparks at his ear. Beyond the tools was the aid station. Canvas walls rope stiff with frost. Inside, iodine, blood, wet wool. Sawdust under cots to drink what bandages could not. A boy stared at the roof. And followed seams like roads home. Another held a boot with no foot in it. Asking in a clear voice for the rest of himself. Morphine was measured in drops. We found Keller, skin the color of old paper. Stump wrapped neat as a parcel. He smiled, then retched without apology. Mayer sat upright and looked through us. Eyes focused on a distance no map showed. I've learned the words later. Hypervigilance, dissociation, moral injury. We called it the shakes. Hands steady on 40 tons. Useless around a spoon. Carols made men duck. Dreams smelled of cordite and tasted like pennies. Back at the tank, Ernst filed track pins. As if each stroke could buy someone back. Otto polished the one uncracked sight glass. Tender as a face. The commander wrote names and numbers. Then drew a small line where a man had been. Dusk came early and purple. A generator coughed. And for a second my stomach dropped. It sounded like our engine catching. The mechanic appeared at my hatch. Tracks by morning. Periscope if we find one. His sleeve smelled of gasoline and bread. I wanted to follow the bread out of the war. Night settled. The aid tent glowed a sick honey color. Men bargained with no one. I lay on the warm hull and counted breaths, until numbers stopped meaning anything. Repairs would make the tank whole. Nothing here made men the same. Morning would come. The beast would wake. We would climb back inside, because that was the only door still open.